Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be in the world. Welcome to the Sensitive Stability BPD Live Show. I am your host, Kevin Reynolds. If you have not seen me before, I am a BPD survivor and a coach for borderline personality disorder. So, every morning, 7 a.m. US EST, Monday through Friday, usually, I will be hosting here. I say usually because I'm getting over a sickness. Monday and Tuesday, I was violently ill in the morning. Sorry about that. Friday, live was down for me. So I don't know what the deal is with that, but every once in a while I'll try to start a live and it won't load at all. I'll try restarting and it won't fix until eventually I reinstall the entire program. So that said, if I'm not here by 7:05 in the morning, you can safely assume that I'm either violently puking or I cannot be there, literally. Okay. So that said, today we are going to be talking about expectation versus reality in terms of borderline personality disorder. And I want to dive a little bit into thought process. That is, what exactly leads to expectation versus reality failure? And what do I mean when I say expectation versus reality failure? Because that's a very specific term, right? So we have expectation in life. Everybody has it. I expected to be here Friday, for example, right? And then we have reality, and reality sometimes doesn't match up with the expectation. So when it doesn't match up, we call that expectation versus reality failure. Okay. So with BPD, at least in my programs, I consider that to be a primary trigger. Now, I have identified different triggers for a reason. There's probably about 15 or so that are very common amongst all of us. Just to give you an idea of some of them, we have things like feeling not good enough, feeling compared to others, feeling judged, criticized, these kinds of things, rejection. These are all in the pool of triggers that can eventually lead to what? Symptoms, right? Triggers lead to emotions, emotions lead to trigger or lead to symptoms. This is why we call it interventive emotional skills, because you really can only intervene starting at the emotional level. You can't predict the triggers. If you could, then your expectations would be right every time, right? You'd go to have a conversation with yourself and you'd be like, okay, well, I'm about to drive to the mall. And then the other part of you would say, yeah, but you're going to get a flat tire. You know what I mean? So I would expect the flat tire, but does that ever happen? I mean, is that information going to be available to you? Well, of course not. That's why it's a trigger. It's because it's out of our reach. It's out of our scope of fortune telling, right? So this is a problem because living with BPD means wanting to seek things that are comfortable. Well, it's not very comfortable having absolutely no idea what the hell's going to happen to you. A year from now, 10 years from now, 5 minutes from now can be tough for us. And that's especially true depending upon the scenario, right? Or the people involved, or how emotionally attached we are to whatever it is that did not go right. So I do want us to lace into the conversation some reasonable level of accountability. Okay? Now, those of you who know me and have heard me talk before will see that I talk a great deal about being accountable for everything, whether it was your fault or not. That should not be misconstrued with blame. I want to remind everybody that there are two things we're talking about here when we separate blame from accountability. They are distinct ideas. Blame is associated with guilt. Guilt is unproductive, right? Accountability is associated with responsibility. Responsibility is productive. You follow me here? So if you're living a life that's miserable, right? And you're taking no accountability, but you find yourself feeling really guilty or blaming other people, which is shifting the guilt, it doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. You are in the unproductive column. How can you expect a change in your life being in the unproductive column, right? You can't. I think I missed a comment there. Sorry about that. If you want to repin that one, you can, Amit. Sensitive Stability Coach in the chat is a moderator. He is a dear friend of mine. He'll make sure you're seen or heard, so let him know if you have any questions. Stephanie, good morning. I've been watching your content lately and just wanted to tell you how helpful it's been. Well, thank you for being here. The more that you watch, ironically, not only does it help you, but it helps other people too, right? So the idea is to reconstruct how people look at this condition. One expectation that we have living with borderline personality disorder is that you can't get better. And unfortunately, that is well ingrained inside of us from society, from the mental health industry. But you very well can get better. You very well can. But this expectation versus reality problem has seated itself in the front row of our lives. And it is in every part of our lives. Everywhere we go, everything we do, every person we talk to, every idea we have, every goal we have, any ambitions that you have. They're all very closely related to expectation, right? Very closely related to expectation. And I hate that for us before remission because we're ill-equipped to handle failure, right? We're ill-equipped to handle rejection. All of the other triggers are potential triggers for expectation versus reality. It's very common for one trigger to lead to another or one symptom to lead to another. And it's very tough for us to identify this bouncing situation. Unfortunately, I am not sure I will be doing a Discord again. I did like the Discord, but I was not able to properly keep that managed. I wasn't able to be there all the time. And some very ugly things were happening in the Discord, things that I was not okay with. So that is why that is not a thing anymore. It is not because one apple ruined the whole bushel. It is because many apples were ruining it. All right. It was kind of a nightmare, and I'm sorry about that. I really am. I'll reconsider thinking about how I might be able to go into something like that to build a community again. But presently, I am just happy that I have enough time to be back here to do the lives again. Life has been very, very hectic for me lately. I have had some strings of things that have made it very impossible for me to find much spare time. So I'm so happy that I can do this in the morning again, and that is a start in the right direction, right? But I will think about the Discord and maybe possible solutions. And I will try to make that a priority. Thank you for bringing that up. It is interesting that you say that. I was just thinking about the Discord the other day. Yeah. Well, anyway, so when you are constructing your life, you are doing so on an active basis every moment of every day. You don't realize it's happening because you're actually spending that time thinking about things that don't matter 90% of the time, right? You're thinking about things that don't matter. You're thinking about how this person's going to react when you see them later. You're thinking about how these two people might be talking about you behind your back. You're thinking about how this guy backstabbed you at work. You're thinking about how your partner didn't text you fast enough. You're thinking about how your boss didn't recognize you, or how you're never going to achieve this goal, or how your in-laws will not accept you. I mean, shit. It's exhausting. And then have you noticed that most of the thoughts are kind of not good? Sure, we have the what we want to see happen. I want them to like me. I want to be accepted. I want to be a hero. I want it to go well. I want to succeed. Well, want is great. And then there is reality, right? So rather than spend all that time falling down the rabbit holes of want and desire, of which get you nowhere, identify what you want, identify what you desire, create goals and reasonable expectations, because there's nothing wrong with that. You can't have no standards, right? And you do have to learn to mitigate failure. You know what I mean? But then spend the time trying to build something. Spend the time trying to improve your life rather than spending the time complaining about it. As I always say, complaining has no value. It's just like blame. Oh, it's your fault. You did it. Da da da. I mean, dude, you know how many hours I have wasted with my wife complaining, or any partner I've ever had? If you would just do this differently, if you would have done this, well, I didn't do that because you didn't do this. And well, I didn't do that because you didn't do this. I mean, and then I didn't do that because you didn't do this. And if you go back far enough, it's because of my parents. You see what I'm saying? All right. So my parents didn't do a good enough job watching me when I was 6. Bad things happen, and now you're going to pay for it, asshole. You know? I mean, it makes no sense. It makes no sense. Lil Wolf, good morning, says, and you're very welcome, Ingrid. I did see your comments as well. Lil Wolf, good morning. Lil Wolf. I like saying Lil. I don't know why. All right, Lil Wolf. When your spouse backstabs you, not supporting you. Yes. Well, and then there's two parts to that, right? There's the perceived paranoid backstab that isn't real, where we think that they've wronged us, but they haven't. Or we just hurt so bad that we want to blame them for things so that we don't have to take blame. And then there's actual backstabbing madness, because people do betray us, right? So what I always say is that it is not your fault if your father was an alcoholic, but it is damn sure your responsibility to build the life that you want to live. That's you. That's no one else. You must do that. Okay? Ingrid says, I finally accepted having unrealistic expectations is completely, well, unrealistic. Yes. You know, there's nothing wrong with accepting the truth. And part of the, man, there's so much to say about that particular sentence. Our standards are very high, you know? They're very high. And I am not suggesting that we lower our standards, so to say. But I am suggesting that we take social norm into consideration. Because you see, your standards set up as a person with BPD, they're unrealistic for a reason. It's because you're trying to have relationships with the rest of the world that operates within the confines of social norm. So that's why the expectations are unrealistic. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, Ingrid. I don't think that many of my expectations were actually unrealistic when I was, you know, having them back then. I thought it was perfectly reasonable to say, she should text me, I love you first sometimes, a little bit more than she does. She should text back faster than she does. She should be a little bit more obsessed with me than she is. She should want to go places with me first. I mean, these types of things are not unrealistic when you say them that way. But if you jump into my shoes back then and you realize how smothering and controlling and manipulative and how I would twist situations like that to make it appear as though those are realistic expectations, well, shit, that's why we get trapped, isn't it? That's why we get stuck. We get stuck because we make the unreasonable sound reasonable. We make it sound that way. And then our partners, unfortunately, are often damned if they do, or they're damned if they don't. They can say or do whatever it is that you think that you need. But the truth is you don't need that part, right? You don't actually need that part. And you might have an expectation of your partner being able to fulfill you. But reality is that they cannot fulfill you that way. You know, I used to get so pissed off when people would say, I'd say something like, oh, she's my other half, right? And then the other people would say, well, you need to be a whole in order to be in a relationship. And they'd say it all condescending assholey. You know what I mean? They'd be like, well, you should really be a hole. And I'd be like, shut the up, right? But the reality is they were right and I didn't understand. And I don't think they understood either. I think they were just spitting out some general trope. People do that. People do that. They say things. They say things that because they're worried about how they're judged as well. So they have just enough surface level information to sound like they know a lot about certain topics, right? But they're not a relationship expert. That's my friend Joe. You know what I mean? I know Joe since kindergarten, and Joe is kind of an idiot. So what does it matter what he thinks? But he is right though. You see, when you are relying on your partner to fill you, that is a emotional trap because they cannot always fill you. They cannot always they can't make the bar every time. They can't fulfill you the way you need to be fulfilled. That is not how it works. Maybe sometimes, but not all the time. And what happens that very first day where you really need them to give you what they've been giving you, but they're not having a good day? Then what? Now they all of a sudden don't care. What about when the honeymoon phase dies? You see what I mean? There's all these things that are part of reality that do not match up with our expectation. It is much better to try and focus on what you bring to the table and what you can give. Gratitude and true authentic selflessness are part of the cure to this. Okay? You must understand that I know how giving we feel, and we are very giving people. We really are. But I want you to understand that I was shocked when I realized how selfish my giving was. I was shocked. When I realized that everything that I thought I was giving for so many years was actually to get things, that I was giving to get. Thanks, Amit. That changed a lot for me. And shock is an actual good your live is flagged for harassment and bullying. Repeated. Okay. Is there some bullying going on here? Am I bullying somebody? I don't know what to say about that. Um, this is why, this is another reason why I stopped the lives. I am going to address this and say this. One was a time constraint, but I was trying to make it. Okay. The other issue is that I was having issues like this. Have I said anything here that is harassing or bullying? Yet somehow I've been flagged for that. Now, I don't know what that means. I don't know if maybe I speak some sort of catalytic truth that is really pissing off a lot of people and they're just reporting. I have no idea how that happens. Maybe I said some words that got triggered. I don't know, Maybe I said the word trigger too much. But my expectation of restarting this live is that it would go smoothly. Anyway, reality is it might not. Who knows? So anyway, if we have repeated violations, we have repeated violations. But it is what it is. So that kind of threw me off track of what I was talking about there. It doesn't really matter because I could talk about this indefinitely. I actually enjoy. The thing about it for me is that I would like to be able to address haters. You know what I mean? I'd like to be able to help them see. I had this this very sweet woman who came to me and really badly wants help. She wants help, and it's like her husband thinks that it's a scam. You know what I mean? So how do you deal with that? Well, then I'm like, okay, well, I'll meet with your husband and answer his questions. Well, no, he's not willing to meet with me, right? Well, I can't do anything about that person. You have to at least be somewhat open-minded, right? In order to open the door to change. That's part of this. So Haley says, I'm thinking of joining the program. I sent in a forum but never heard anything. Please do resend. Maybe maybe I missed it. I do respond to all my emails personally. And right now I have like a same day kind of response, which is, usually I'm behind a day or so. So please do resend it and I will get back to you. Once in a while, things do somehow fall through a crack. I get a ton of emails every day, hundreds and hundreds a week. So it can be difficult sometimes to make sure that I always get back to people, but please do email. I want to be able to help the people who don't see the light. I want to be able to help them. And I have mixed feelings about it. You know what I mean? Like the situation I just described where the wife would like to do it, but the husband isn't on board, right? That's tough. And then he's not willing to meet with me. I can't do anything about that. Really, I mean, I can't. Then you have somebody who they're skeptical. Well, that's fine. Be skeptical. Like I want to make it clear that probably somewhere about 3.5% of the global population has this. And there are enough of them who need the help right now, who are absolutely ready and believe in it, to where I don't have to sell or convince people. You know what I'm saying? I am far beyond that era. Thank you. I appreciate that. So for the people that are haters, I would like to address them in masses. But the truth is I can't help you anyway if you're a hater. I don't have the time or energy to bring on that type of commitment, but I could help you get to the place where you're ready to get help. And it starts with coming to lives like this. It starts with on YouTube. I have about 30 hours of lives posted. They're from earlier this year. That's 30 hours of content that can start putting you in the right direction. You know what I mean? It's not like the information is so hidden. I mean, if you really wanted to figure out if this makes sense, all you really have to do is show up here, every morning or watch some of my videos on TikTok or any other social platform. It makes sense, and it makes sense for a reason. And you're either ready for the change or you're not ready for the change. In terms of deciding who's ready versus who's not ready, there are three things that I think are essential and I look for before I will even consider working with somebody. The first is awareness. They must admit that they have the condition and how it impacts their life. I cannot work with someone who does not accept this and put them in this program. I can't have that kind of pushback. There is a reason why most people get better in under 2 months in this program. It is because I am careful in terms of who I pick. Are you ready? Or are you going to spend 2 months telling me how I'm wrong and you're right and this is why your way is better? Your way is not better. If your way was better, it would be working. You see what I'm saying? And I'm not saying it to be, an a-hole. I'm saying it because I was that person. I spent the first 2 years of my journey telling everybody to, go to hell. I spent a couple years thinking I had anger issues. I spent a little while saying I maybe accept this, but I can do it myself. I went through all these phases, and I can clearly see where people are in terms of awareness. You also need motivation. You have to have motivation, or you will not have the perseverance to see it through. This is the most difficult condition to treat on the face of the planet, in my opinion, truly. Maybe narcissism is right next to it, you know what I mean? But they're all cluster B, so we could just kind of summarize it as cluster B. The third is a will to change, because nothing changes if nothing changes, guys. It's that simple, okay? Haley says, my psychologist told me the only help is an intensive outpatient program. Is this similar? You could call it an intensive outpatient kind of program. I mean, it is a remission program geared towards giving you everything that you need in less than 2 months to be able to get to remission. And it is very effective because I am very involved in it. Part of my program involves 24/7 tech support with me directly. I have like a 1 to 3 hour response time on average, and that is around the clock, including overnight, generally speaking, no matter where you are in the world. Okay, that's part of it. We do some sessions, and you also watch some modules. The modules are supposed to teach you some of the foundational stuff, right? So that we are working on more issues and less instruction. And then the sessions are used to get over the bigger hurdles as we see them, as we see fit. It's it's quite successful. Most of the magic, though, occurs in the tech support. And that's because I should be walking you through in the tech support. And that's because I should be walking you through things every day, right? Talk about expectation versus reality failure. I had basically every expectation for every program I had ever joined, and every single one of them failed me. I've spent 15 grand on a DBT program that lasted 9 months. Basically, didn't get anything out of that. That used to make me sick. I don't care about it anymore. Who cares? It was just, now I look at it differently. Now I'm like, I had to invest that money to learn that didn't work to get to the next thing that might work. You see what I mean? It's kind of like when you fail 100 times to, make this light bulb work. You know what I mean? You had to try it these other times to get the time that would work. So you can't really be angry at the things that failed, right? But I used to be sick about it. I used to sit around and think, man, I wish I could have just given that money to the homeless shelter or anything else in the world other than them, because it didn't help me. I did 2 other DBT programs. Those didn't help. I've done CBT, MBT. I have done over 4,000 hours in therapy. I have done almost every workbook that exists. I've done all the books. I've done group counseling. I have tried over 12 medications. I've seen over 16 different mental health professionals. I've done inpatient, outpatient, all sorts of stuff. And none of it was working. And that is a massive issue. And people are also sick and tired of us. So, but if you have a condition that only 1% of the global population gets diagnosed, how can you really expect that much attention to go into the treatment, right? SHB, good morning to you. Interested in this for my son? How much does this cost, please? I have a number of different programs depending upon budget and severity and a number of other things. So before I drop any prices at the moment, I do want to encourage you to email me and tell me your story. I would like to be able to better guide you in a more personalized way. And I'd like to learn a little bit about your son before I would suggest something. The BPD remission program is $2,043. It is a 2-month program with 24/7 tech support, 4 sessions with me that we put every other week typically, and 16 video modules that you are to watch 2 times per week. Now, I don't know if your son accepts BPD, knows he has BPD, has tried anything else, would be open to meeting with me, for example. So there's a lot of different factors there. I also have a version where we cut out the sessions and it's a bit cheaper. It just does the tech support side, which does work. It might not be as fast in some areas, right? Because the sessions help us get over some hurdles faster, but it most certainly works. I also have classes that I teach Tuesday at 8 p.m. US EST. And I do them every Tuesday, so there's 4 per month. That program is designed to give you everything you need within a 4-month period. So not as fast as the more intensive program, but that only costs $247 a month. So I've been trying to release more things so that people have less excuses for getting better. Plus I also take payment plans. I do payment plans for basically all of it. So let me know an email, your full story, and I will help walk you through. Just started an intensive outpatient program. Very eye-opening so far. Good. That's good. I am totally on board with anything anybody's doing in order to try and improve this condition. One thing I know is that you do not deserve living with this forever. That's bullshit. I mean, that is bullshit. Some of us are in our 60s and we're trying to get better. Some of us are even older. My oldest client was 84. I can't imagine suffering until 84. I just can't. I cannot imagine that. I mean, I did have the most extreme case that I have ever seen. And I talk about this from once in a while. When I started trying to figure this out, I was doing it for myself. I just wanted to know what happened to me. And then when I finished, right, when I got to a place where I was better, I remember that there's all these people still suffering. So I get on board to help other people. I start sensitive stability, all this kind of stuff. But I was nervous when I was getting into this. I was thinking to myself, can I help these people? Can I help you guys? Surely some of you have a worse case than I do, and I could not imagine that. I mean, I was hanging out of buildings naked, 10-story in London, all sorts of crazy stuff, right? I'm thinking to myself, how could I help someone else if they are worse? And I decided that there was nobody for me. There was nobody there for me at all. And I scoured the corners of the earth to find someone. So I said, I'm the best that they might have. So let me be the person for them that I wish was there for me, no matter what that means. And if I encounter somebody that I can't help, well, dude, if your biggest crime is you tried, that's not so bad, right? Well, that's hilarious because after working with over 1,000 people with BPD, I will tell you right now that I am the worst case I have ever seen, which is great because it means that I have experienced all this stuff. You know, there's nothing that you have done that I don't know firsthand in some way, shape, or form, or usually have a comparable story. ET says, do you diagnose? No, I am not a licensed clinician. I am, I did study this for both of my graduate programs, and it has been my entire life. But I specifically, despite being qualified to go the counselor route, did not go that route for a number of reasons. Number one, I did not like that they were mandated reporters. I could not be honest with them. I could not share things with them that I needed to share. You know, they were concerned about, me having mentioned certain plans I was making, or, when you talk about the ending it all type of stuff, they get very skittish, and it's very difficult to be honest with them. So I wasn't, and I would lie. I would lie about the SH. They're asking me when the last time I did it, and meanwhile, I'm rolling my sleeves down in front of them. Oh, yes, it's fine now. Everything's good, right? Meanwhile, I just had an incident a couple days ago or 5 hours ago or whatever, right? I also didn't like that I felt like they didn't care or understand. Mostly that's because they didn't have BPD. I did not feel like I got anything out of the advice. I'd spend 30 minutes talking to them about what happened since the last time I saw them, which I felt like was a waste of time. They'd ask me how I feel about it. I'd say pretty fucking bad. And then they'd tell me go home and meditate and it'll get better. Go home, go for a run. It'll improve. Tap your leg when you're getting anxious. Yeah, well, watch, I'm tapping. I'm still pissed. You know what I mean? It's not working. I go for a run and come back just as angry. I would meditate and it didn't matter. No matter what, I could not get what I needed out of that. I also knew that they weren't there when I really needed them. So, they go home to their family, so to say, have dinner with their family, take their kid to soccer practice, go to sleep next to their partner. Meanwhile, I'm running around my house like a madman, destroying everything. Where are they then? I'll update them in a couple weeks when I see them, right? I did not like the doctor route. I have been enrolled in numerous pre-med programs in the past, thinking maybe I might want to be a doctor. Mostly that was because my ex-wife had a fascination with being married to a doctor, so I felt the need to satisfy that. So I would enroll in these programs and start learning about this, that, whatever. And then but the true me is an entrepreneur, right? And I'm kind of like I'm not going to be coaching forever. I probably will stop coaching by the end of this year because I need to start training doctors and therapists to understand how to better treat this so that everybody can get help, because I can only help one person at a time. And that is frustrating to me. And it is frustrating to me that I don't see any other programs that are improving people to this degree, getting rid of all of the symptoms, all of the episodes, all of the splits, my definition of full remission. That bothers me. So I need to get other people to be able to do this, right? But anyway, I didn't go that route. I went the coaching route because I'm not a mandated reporter. But the downside to that is that I don't diagnose, right? But then again, I also don't believe that the diagnosis is worth it. I spent 11 years trying to get diagnosed. And when I did, it actually made my life a lot harder. Now, all of a sudden, doctors and therapists don't want me because BPD is too difficult. On top of that, I had a really tough time getting approved for life insurance. And they would literally deny me, telling me that it was because it was too risky due to this condition. And the funny thing is, I private paid with the person that diagnosed me. I paid in cash specifically to stay off record. Somehow they figured it out anyway. So I would say that the diagnosis is not so important. You want to be able to identify with this, right? ET says, do you really need a diagnosis if you are feeling that BPD is something? Exactly. It's about the behavior. If you identify with the behavior, just focus on fixing the behavior. Holy shit, I wish I could scream to myself like in the beginning of the journey. Just fix the behavior. Stop trying to figure out the label. Just fix the behavior. What's wrong? Seriously, has anybody ever just looked at you and helped you walk through a series of patterns that are under the surface? As people say to you all the time, what is wrong? Right? And then you say, well, I had this thing happen to me. And then they say, oh, well, you should get over it. You know, that's usually where the conversation ends. They'll reply and say something that's trite and doesn't really help, right? What's wrong? Well, I don't want to be judged. Why? Because I'm scared. Why are you scared? Why are you scared? Well, I'm scared that this person won't stay or won't accept me, right? Or that they will reject me. Why? Why are you scared that they will reject you, that you won't be accepted? Well, it's because I don't feel good enough. Thank you, Sue. Why? Why don't you feel good enough? Well, I guess it's because something bad happened in my childhood. Right? What? What happened in your childhood? Specifics. Oh, thank you, Carolyn. I appreciate that. I don't know what causes the glitches. I've been having some problems with the lives. That is why I wasn't here Friday, but I will look into it. I unplugged it. I think maybe the charging thing was an issue, but we'll see. So that said, you have to dive deeper than that. What specifically in your childhood has created this version of you that is so protective, that's so scared, that was harmed? What was it? And you have to really figure out that next part. You see where we are here? We started out in a place where, surface level at the top. What's wrong? Right? You're having a bad day. So you go from having a bad day to what it was deep down, and I wish somebody would have ever taken the time to walk me through something like this. This is heartbreaking that it doesn't happen. Everybody says, oh, it's childhood trauma. You need to really walk yourself through the pattern and figure out that's why, that's why things are so terrible. Gypsy Creations, hello. I'm just joining. Did I hear you say that you have 0 episodes? 0 episodes, 0 splits, 0 symptoms. I don't let the emotional content turn into something that I know I have no control over. I don't allow myself to get to places where there are, ridiculous consequences for overreacting. If I have an idea about how an argument should go, I will take time to think about how I can improve the likelihood that maybe I can get something favorable out of it. But that usually takes some time and some reflection, and those types of things take learning how to intervene at the emotional level. And to do that, you must understand why it is that you are so upset. Because it's so funny, man. We will fight and argue over the stupidest stuff in life. We will throw down over things that don't matter at all, and we'll make them matter. We'll make them matter. And it's so weird how it happens because other people, they see nothing wrong at all. You know what I mean? It's not a big deal to them. Even the light arguing isn't a big deal usually. They can get over it very quickly. But you need to be able to dive beyond the surface and realize that the reason you can't is because you feel rejected, right? Or you have one of these triggers, which then triggers the emotions, which then triggers the symptoms, which then triggers the episodes. Good morning, Sarah. Sarah says, can fear of abandonment present present as intense rejection sensitivity? Yes, it can. Rejection is one of the biggest triggers for fear of abandonment. We are hypersensitive in general, and which can be tied to and trigger fear of abandonment. I will also say that jealousy is a huge feature that delineates from fear of abandonment. Okay. So the jealousy is, and I understand. It's not that I don't trust you, babe. It's that I don't trust everyone else, right? Anyway, um, did I miss something here? I mean, when I react, I change, and my empathy leaves. Yes, that is called splitting usually, and you will split sometimes in combinations with with an episode. So sometimes it can lead to extreme behavior. Um, I used to split into a narcissist. I even got diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder once because I had split, and the split lasted long enough for me to actually go see a therapist who only saw me as a narcissist. And I'm trying to tell her, I'm like, no, you don't get it. I have borderline. She's like, nope, you're a narcissist. And then like the next week, it's the narcissism is gone and everything's back to normal, right? So we will split to save ourselves. Splitting is a defense mechanism, and splitting into a narcissistic personality is one of the easiest ways to protect ourselves. My new Horizon 7. I'm 37 and just found your videos after an episode that affected work. Thank you. You're very welcome, and I'm also so sorry that you are going through this. I am 38, and I didn't get better. I didn't get to remission until I was 31. Um, you are here now, my friend, and the past is gone. It doesn't matter anymore. Even what just happened at work, it just doesn't. The question is, how fast can you recover? How much better can you do after this episode than the last one? And what can you do to be productive? As mentioned earlier, there are two things that we typically could focus on. The first, blame, which translates into guilt, which is unproductive. No matter what, if you feel guilt and you are putting that into the world, you are punishing not only yourself, but other people because think of it this way. You did something wrong with your partner, right? You hurt their feelings, and now you feel bad about it. I'm such an awful husband. I am worthless. What's the point in being with me? Oh no, babe, you're not so bad. You're a great husband, and it's okay. Oh no, babe, you're not so bad. You're a great husband, and it's okay. We can move. I just made her make me feel better when I did something wrong. You see what I mean? That blames her. I didn't blame her. I shifted the blame. What I did was I shifted the responsibility for fixing it using blame, right? Blame, guilt, unproductive. Accountability, responsibility, productive. Yeah? Erica says, so don't give up, buddy. And reach out to me if you would like some guidance, by the way. And that goes for anybody. I personally respond to my emails. So if you need some help, just shoot me an email, tell me your story, and I will guide you best I can, no matter what the situation. If you need some help, just shoot me an email, tell me your story, and I will guide you best I can, no matter what the situation. Yeah, because when I react, I'm missing some stuff, you know. Okay, there we go. Journaling helped me a lot with getting to the root of why I feel the way I feel. Yes, I will create flowcharts when I don't know what the hell is going on. You know, if I feel like my emotional content has grown too high, I will start to write things down too. Exploring this from an objective perspective is the number one way to get to the bottom of it. Objective meaning you cannot let your own emotions control and manipulate the way that you go about analyzing a situation. You just can't. And that's hard to do, especially if you're stuck in a situation with somebody you deeply love, whether you have BPD or not. You know, it'll be easy for you to allow your emotions to alter the way that you're looking at a scenario. Writing it down can help kind of pinpoint where you're going wrong there. An example of that is, well, this person said this thing probably because they felt threatened, but they shouldn't have felt threatened because I did nothing threatening. That's wrong. You see, I just violated the arrangement of that skill. I can't bring my own thoughts and ideas into it. I have to imagine being that other person. That's true empathy, and that is part of objectively analyzing something. Gypsy says, can that cause underreaction at times? I get accused of not caring when I'm processing. Yes, it can. It can. And when you're starting to get better and you first are struggling with the whole I'm not going to overreact thing and you can't quite do it completely right, I tell people to do nothing because that's an action too. And sometimes that do nothing comes across as not caring to the other person, in which case you can calmly, you don't have to say anything. Because I guarantee you that them thinking that you don't care for a few minutes is much better than the overreaction that you would have had when the TV went out the window. You know what I mean? What do they rather want? And you have to be able to take some of that criticism, some of that type of, you know, you're uncaring. Okay, well, they feel I'm uncaring right now. That is what it is, right? At least I didn't punch a hole in the wall, you know, or threaten divorce, right? Kaylee says, good morning, Kaylee. I have autism, BPD, and ADHD, so some days it's hard to know which one is talking. Well, it's all kind of a general. Says, good morning, Kaylee. I have autism, BPD, and ADHD, so some days it's hard to know which one is talking. Well, it's all kind of a general blend, which makes you the ultra unique special individual that you are. All of those conditions that you listed and every other has their own sets of superhero powers. And we just keep looking at all of these afflictions like they're just so awful. But the truth is they are built this way with superpowers built in. They really are. I don't think it is worth it to focus on the negatives over the positives. I think it's worth it to focus on solutions and the positives over the negative things first, right? So, because you have to have something to aim at. What I mean by that is we are often called controlling and manipulative, right? Well, I prefer to focus on ambitious and calculated obsession, right? Influence. Those kinds of things are what I shoot for. So I don't want to focus on the fact that I'm controlling and manipulative and get rid of that and then not keep the good parts of it. Instead, I just want to focus on more of the good parts and less of the bad parts. So what I will give you a real example, right? Um, let's say that I want a raise at work. Let's say that I want a raise at work, right? I want a raise at work. Well, I could try and I could try more to influence my boss to see my value, right? And the more that I influence them, which is in the same kind of arena, manipulation becomes influence, I'm looked upon in favorable light, not just by him or her, but by everybody, including myself. And now I feel like I didn't kind of con them into giving me something. Instead, I provided value to get it. And in the process, I did less of the controlling mechanisms. So those are the kinds of things. Instead of trying to control everything your partner does because you're afraid of them cheating, maybe build yourself up more so that they care more about what you think, and then they just naturally won't do some of the things that made you nervous. Instead, they will have been influenced by your behavior to behave appropriately, in the relationship. And now you don't look like a controlling asshole. You know what I mean? Dab Chell says, how do you make yourself unsplit after a year of fighting? Well, splits can be long term, splits can be permanent. One of the easiest ways to first, you have to recognize that you're in a split, and you have to understand what the split is. I mean, fully understand it, because you may not be splitting for the reasons that you think. If it's one particular person you've been fighting for a year, I mean, you probably have a bunch of core value differences that neither of you have budged on, and you're just willing to fight on the hill, so to say, right, until the end. Um, I hate that. I hate that we get trapped like that. But the reasons you're fighting are probably not the reasons you're fighting. And I think you first need to investigate that so you can accept some accountability in terms of what your actual contributions are. You must think in your need to investigate that so you can accept some accountability in terms of what your actual contributions are. You must think in your head, what did I do to contribute to this situation being where it is? What could I have done better? Those are the productive types of thoughts that might help you. I would also encourage you to think about what you thought of this person before you split. Because at one point you liked them, right? At one point you loved them, maybe. At one point you got along. At one point you thought good things. What changed? What specific thing happened? Because it's always a specific thing that pushes us over the edge, that camel straw backbreaking thing, right? Those types of investigatory things I think are essential in getting out of a split. You can always, of course, email me your situation. Thank you, Jill. And I will give you the best guidance that I can. ET says, I thought of flowcharts. Any tips on how to end the split, especially when you can't stop? First is definitely awareness. If you're struggling with this, thank you, Jill. Please do email me and tell me what's going on. Explain the split. Explain the people involved. Thank you, Little Wolf. And tell me what your goal is as well, because intentions and goals and motives and ambitions all matter too. Some people can say, I have BPD and this ruins my life, but I don't care and I don't want to get better. Well, that's a dramatically different situation than somebody who is willing to do anything to get better and maybe doesn't know how, right? Or maybe doesn't know they have BPD. There's all types of cases. To be able to give you better guidance, I would have to know more, so please don't be shy. Getting out of splits, though, is sometimes you don't even know you're in one. You know what I mean? So that's tough. You have to be willing to say to yourself, honestly, how did I feel about this person, place, or thing, or idea, or myself, because you can split on yourself, 5 minutes ago, 5 years ago? Have I always felt the way that I feel now? How long ago did I feel differently? Did the idea shift from black to white, from good to bad, from bad to good? Some splits are good. Sometimes you don't want a negative influence in your life, right? Okay. Sometimes the comments get pinned, and then they disappear. So if I miss a comment, it's definitely not intentional. Sorry about that. And please do shoot me an email and let me know if you have a question I didn't get to. And if you are trying to be heard, then please do tag. There it is. See, they're flipping around. Tag Sensitive Stability Coach, and he'll make sure that you're seen or heard. Rudy says discourage BPD and codependency on others. I'm not quite sure what exactly the question is, if there is a question. Maybe that is just a comment. But I will say that discourage. There are different types of BPD. I try, and I've written extensively about them. I've done some videos on them. I go over them in the book I'm writing, which I'm finishing up now. But I'll be honest with you. We're all kind of just a shotgun spread of stuff, I would bounce around between different types. I would bounce around in the cluster B spectrum. Codependency is usually around in the cluster B spectrum. Codependency is usually very big with us, though, no matter where you are on that spectrum. Good morning, Emmy. Force yourself to find things you like about the person, focus on the good qualities. Making a pros and cons chart is not a bad idea. That is okay if you are trying to. But see, here's the thing about that. That means you want to unsplit. So, what I would say is that the split might not really be about that person, if that's the case. It might be something internal about that person, if that's the case. It might be something internal. This person just might be the manifestation target of which you are able to express exactly how you feel. Internal. This person just might be the manifestation target of which you are able to express exactly how you feel. I have cut some people out of my life before because I felt worthless. I felt one delineation of this, and the rejection can make it very difficult for us to deal with life. I will let you guys know that I don't typically take questions after the 7:55 mark. So the last 5 minutes, I just talk, and that's because I want to leave you with the right kind of messages. If your question did not get answered today, please do email me or show up tomorrow, and we'll try and see if we can get it answered tomorrow. But I do respond personally to all emails, and I know that there's a lot of rejection in the world. In fact, that's the crux of the issue, largely anyway, right? Not fitting in, not feeling good enough, and it's tough not feeling good enough. Something I have realized lately is that people don't feel good enough even without BPD. And I'm going to answer this question by Brooke real quick, too, just because I had seen it come in right before. Can you leave a relationship without it being a split? Absolutely. He had a heavy drug use, and I was just done. But there's nothing wrong with it being a split. Some splits are good. And that's the thing. Some rejection's good. There is no light without darkness, right? There is no growth without pain. There is no success without failure. You will fall. That should be part of your expectations. I am going to fall. I am going to fail. I'm going to be rejected. Sometimes people aren't going to like me, man. Some places people are going to hate me. I mean, I've got a very poignant kind of taste. People either love me or they hate me, usually. Sometimes they still work with me even when they hate me because they know that I'm right about this kind of stuff. So you don't have to like me, it turns out, to get my help. You know what I mean? And that's okay. You cannot offend me or insult me. I am unaffected by those kinds of things. But the rejection is so hard to overlook before remission. You see, now it's no problem. Now it's data. And that's all it is. And that's something that I want you to remember. Thank you, Sue, by the way, and thank you, Jill, and thank you, everybody who has always been a loyal supporter and such a big part of the community. Together, we make a bigger impact. That is the truth. And I can't answer all questions. I can't be there all the time for every single comment, but I see you guys being there for each other too, which is inspiring as well. So look at some of these negative things and maybe start asking yourself, look, did I really think that I'd go through life and everything would just always be good, always be smooth, that there would be no problems? Why is it so bad that I am in the situation I'm in? Yeah, things might be tough or things might be rough or maybe this is happening or that's happening. But is it not okay to just be okay right now anyway? I mean, seriously, is it really necessary that the rest of the world thinks that we're good enough? What are you doing all that for? The appreciation, the attention, the validation. If I was doing what I was doing right now to reach a pinnacle where I'm on a stage and there's 3,000 people out there clapping and they're all, Kevin, you're so amazing. You're so great. That was beautiful. That was beautiful. That feel good will last a couple minutes. And then I'll walk off the stage and then it's gone. Right? I feel good about who I am because I am someone who will always do good no matter what. And that brings peace. That brings solace. You can do it too. And it's not that hard. And you can start as soon as now. You need to look at why you're doing things. You need to look at what you're putting into certain circumstances. And you need to ask yourself, how selfish am I being? How objective am I? And how empathetic am I? And when you start breaking down things like that, your behavior will change. You might even be doing the same stuff, but you'll be doing it for a different reason. Anyway, I enjoyed this live. It was a good one, even though I got flagged for bullying. Anyway, so I'll see you tomorrow, and we'll try very hard not to harass anyone. Thank you for tuning in today. I will be here 7 a.m. US EST tomorrow, bright and early, like Monday through Friday, provided there are no expectation versus reality failures. Have a good day and be easy on yourself. Thank you, guys.